TennoCon was recently, and outside of our Warframe interviews that are also floating around on this channel, we got a chance to check out Soulframe, which, if you're not aware of what it is, then this is the perfect place for you to be, because we spoke to Scott and Sydney from the Soulframe team, and we got to ask them things like, what is Soulframe? What are you going to do in Soulframe? And what was it like trying to build a game that has to appeal to the Warframe community while also being completely different from Warframe? It was great to actually be able to sit down, talk to them about what this game is meant to be and how you go about designing something like this, while also finding out more about the game, because even if you're in the Preludes free alpha, whatever it is, it's still pretty confusing as to what this game is meant to be. Even as someone who's played this game, I still really am not too sure on what this game is meant to be. So this video is perfect for both me and you. I hope you enjoy watching it as much as I enjoyed getting to talk to the team, and we hope to see you in the next video. Should do introductions for both yourself, Scott, and Sydney, so people know who you are, what you do on the Soulframe team, just for those who haven't got much experience with Soulframe.
Sure. I'm Sydney Hills. I'm the narrative designer on Soulframe.
I am Scott McGregor. I'm the lead designer on Soulframe.
So my very first question would be, can you give us a bit of what is Soulframe? You know, it's for people who don't have access to it yet, or people who play Warframe but have heard of Soulframe, it's kind of like this mysterious object on the horizon. Can you give us a little bit more overview of it?
Sarah said something really good the other day, and I wrote it down. Nature, romanticism, redemption.
Oh,
I thought that was quite a good summary, actually, of the big themes.
oh, that's good. That's like box worthy,
right?
Yeah.
I thought so too.
If you had a box.
Yes. Back in the day where, you know, boxes existed.
Yep.
So obviously there's a lot of kind of ties in the design of how, you know, you've made Warframe and now you're making Soulframe, and there's similarities but also a lot of differences between the two games. My very first question would be, like, I get home from work, I boot up Soulframe. What am I going to be doing on an average night of, like, logging in and playing the game?
Well, you'll probably log in. You'll probably go and visit Tulakane to see what crafting recipes have completed overnight. And then you'll probably be jumping in and working on your Tales progression, or if you're on a quest, you'll be completing that. You'll be exploring the world, looking for secrets. You'll be exploring the dungeons, looking for loot. You'll be progressing your character, looking for new ways to make your character stronger or different in a new and interesting ways. You'll probably spend way too much time with Verminia, customizing the colors of your character and your outfit. So I think it's more about creating your own envoy and then exploring the world and finding out its secrets and its lore.
So one of the big differences in my mind when it comes to Warframe and other games is that the amount of quests it has are pretty limited down, and they're very kind of like crafted and honed, and so you don't have any, you know, fetch quests or any of this nonsense. They all serve a purpose and tell a story. Is that the same approach that you're going for with Soulframe? Are you looking for every quest to matter and to, like, have purpose in the world?
Yeah, I think there's different levels of that. I guess you could talk about Warframe has its missions, which are basically mini quests, or they have a mini progression to them, which, you know, are sort of could be considered our fetch quest or our destruction, you know, those things. For Soulframe, we have our Tales, and those are the like mini missions that you're directed by your faction to go complete. So things that will advance their needs in the world. So it could be, you know, finding, you know, the Baronet has taken over this local town, and you got to clear out the ode from there and get the key and progress that way. So there's different, I guess, quality levels to those quests or those missions. And then you have, again, if you've played Soulframe at all, you can see we have very highly crafted quest lines that introduce the Omen Beasts and our ancestors.
Yeah, so I played Prelude 6, so that'd be September last year. And having just seen the preview of what's coming and the bear story and all this kind of stuff, the game looks night and day different between what I saw back then and just how much work you've put into it and how much world building and story crafting you've made. Because it felt back then like it was, you had the framework in place. Like you had some combat there, you had a little bit of like exploration and some running around, and there was the odd thing that you can do. And now it really feels like, no, we're like filling this game now. We're into the points of, we're crafting the stories, we're building out the world, we're making all of these factions and everything else that you're actually going to be interacting with. So it really kind of is interesting to me that you've done such an impressive amount in that time, but also the quality of the work that you're putting into it now. It feels like you're trying to actually take care with the crafting of the story and crafting of the world, so that you don't, just throw things in there for the sake of throwing them in there.
It is crazy to look back to not that long ago. It's not that big of a team either. It's really impressive. Yeah.
It's tiny compared to what you hear. We hear team sizes now and we're like, wow, could you imagine what we could do with that size of a team? And sometimes I think of those things and then I remember like the management and the overhead that's required for a team of that size, and having a small, dedicated, focused, strike group that we have feels more agile and more, we can react and we can change direction and we can build out the world in an interesting way. So yeah, I even recently we took down the walls of the world to open up the full island, and that was massive, right? And that was just sort of like, and in doing that, we've started to be like, well, the players are looking for stuff in the other parts, and then we start to expand. Instead of trying to cram it all in the area that we had functional, we're starting to fill out the rest of the island, and it's starting to really feel like a living, breathing world.
Sydney, I would love to know, given that, Soulframe is its own thing, it's this new entity, and it's not, it's not Warframe in the past or any of this kind of stuff. What was it like when it came to the creative freedom of being able to create that narrative in this world and being able to think about like, well, what do we want to highlight? What are like the core tenets that we're trying to apply to the world that we're building?
Yeah, it's huge. The creative freedom has been wild. I think that's another amazing part about having a small team, is that the ideas can come from anyone, and people can throw whatever they want into the Slack channels. I know I will throw the most wild ideas in sometimes, and sometimes it's crickets, and sometimes it's like, yes, let's try it. And it's so much fun to be able to, to be able to start on such a new project where we have these really gorgeous environments and these really interesting characters, and then just, as each new piece is added in, it's like, how does this fit into the world? What does this mean about the world now that we have Verminia, a druid with this specific type of potion magic? Like, what kind of system can we build around that, and how can the players engage in it? And yeah, the creative freedom is so expansive, and I think having those inspirations coming from like design mechanics or art or concepts is like a really good inspiration, a really good guidance. It's nice to have those kinds of boxes that we're able to work within narratively, because otherwise it gets almost overwhelming,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely impressive from the preview that we saw. You were showing off the art designs for some of the weapons, and just the art team just killing it as always. Just knocking it straight out of the park with some of their designs. It must be really awesome when you go from idea to concept to then seeing the art team build out this vision that you had, and then of course the next step seeing it implemented in the game. It must be quite like a cool little, I made that, like that's our little piece of the world.
It is mind-blowing. Yeah, the Bromius quest was a big one for that. It really did, it was more story first, I think, than a lot of our, stuff like weapons will come in, or characters, or a lot of them are filling gameplay mechanics, which is also really fun to write within. But yeah, Bromius quest was more of a big, we have this bear, what's going to happen to him? And so being able to see, the trees and the sap, and then the Neathans, which you'll see later on, later in the demo, all of this kind of coming to life, based on a really early story concept that came together, I think over a year ago now. It's been really, really cool to see.
Is there a kind of fine line that you're trying to walk when it comes to, okay, we're making a game that we want to appeal to our existing community, but also to bring in new players? Is that kind of how are you approaching that concept of, obviously you want to make something that's unique and on its own, but at the same time it would be cool if the Warframe fans came over as well?
Yeah, I think I think the greatest thing about the community that Reb and Megan and Sarah have cultivated and built over the many years of Warframe is they're accepting of us doing a second project.
Yeah.
Most of the time when companies start a second project, they feel like they're abandoning the first one. And the Warframe community has been great and has sort of like embraced the fact that we are trying something new, and they're interested in what we're doing, and they're allowing us the space and the time and the freedom to do it without being negative about it, which is fantastic. The art style, the combat style, and those things are definitely drawing in players that that maybe Warframe didn't appeal to. Warframe has a strong aesthetic, and if you like it, you love it, and if you don't, you don't. And I find that there's not a lot of middle ground for it, but people are curious of what we're doing as a company. So I think Soulframe is potentially a little bit more approachable for some people, so that's drawing in a new crowd of people. And I think that new crowd even has tried Preludes, and I've heard players like jumping into Preludes and going, wow, this is fantastic, and then deciding to go try Warframe and get past that initial barrier of learning and experience. So I think it's good from both sides. It's the existing community has embraced us and allowed us that freedom, and the people that are coming into the game are looking at what we've done in the past and looking at Warframe and deciding to jump on board and try it.
I have to admit that as someone who played Warframe and then stopped and then got into Warframe again, in that middle period, there was a part of me that was like, Soulframe is going to be the game for me because it's new. Like, I get to get in at the start on the ground floor, so to speak. I don't have to worry about the intimidation of like jumping into a game that's 10 years on at this point and has all of these systems and dailies and places that I need to go, and I can discover something fresh along with people who are discovering it with me, and I get to kind of see it grow and evolve, and I'll retain that knowledge as I'm there for those steps. So it was definitely a case of like, oh, this is a game for people who might be intimidated by Warframe, like you said. I think that like hits it perfectly.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's there's not a lot of games that go on for this long.
No,
there's not. With Warframe going for as many years as it's gone, like we have people that are like, oh, I started playing this in high school, and they're like, I'm married now with a job and a kid, and you're like, holy smokes, like I'm like, with my walker coming in, right? And Soulframe is potentially a jumping in point, like you said, for a new generation of gamers to sort of jump on board and see what Digital Extremes is all about and how we make games and how we treat our community. So I think that's super important. I think Warframe has also done a fantastic job lately of trying to streamline that new player experience for, realizing and recognizing that the content barrier is so high from a game that's been going for that long. And they've done a fantastic job of lowering those barriers and allowing players to get through that older content to get into the newer stuff so that they can be a part of what they're building. Because what they're building is fantastic. And but it is a game you have to jump in and play it for a while before you get to sort of catch up to where they are. So I think they're doing a great job of lowering that barrier as well. So I think it's good for both games.
I have to agree. I really think the Warframe at the moment is just knocking it out of the park. It's at the top of its game in regards to like all of the story content has been fantastic. The frame designs and the art team have just been utterly incredible, and it just really feels like we've found our stride. Now like we have the community that supports us, and everything is just going so well. Every time I speak to someone from DE, I'm always like, it feels like Reb and Megan are just living their best lives. Like you start on you start on the community team for this game, and now you are where you are, and it's your baby. You've seen it grow so much over this time, and you must be so proud of it. And
I remember pushing a Costco cake out into the parking lot with 1,000 candles on it, or as many as we could buy, because we wanted to celebrate. Like we had like 1,000 subscribers to something, so we were like, we're gonna do a video, and we like pushed a cake into the parking lot and like burned it down just because we were like. And then seeing what it is now, and like seeing that we're putting on a concert and multi-day convention, and like it's mind-blowing to see where it's gone. And a big part of that is the community team.
Yeah, whoever came up with the name Tenno Concert like deserves a pay rise for that one. It's such a clever wordplay. I really like it.
It's so satisfying.
Yeah.
So for Soulframe, when it comes to the approach of character design and that kind of like how you want the player to feel when they're playing the game, what's the kind of intent? Because for me, Warframe is speed and power, and from playing Prelude 6 back in last year, it felt that this game was trying to create that power and urgency in its combat style with the parrying and everything else, but it was a lot more slower and methodical in its approach.
Yeah, it's 100% deliberate. We're trying to make a slower paced game. We're trying to make something that maybe appeals to a different genre of player. Warframe is very fast and frenetic, and Soulframe is very slow and deliberate. So that's sort of in the DNA of the game. That's what we're trying to go for. We want players to feel like they can take their time and explore the game, and it's not at a constant 11 pace.
Yeah.
Which could be a signal that we're getting older and that we're looking for different experiences, or it's just part of the way we wanted to design the game is to differentiate the product so that, when you're in that mood for that hyper, speed fantasy, Warframe fills that role like it's world class, right? Yeah. And we're hoping that when Soulframe reaches that stride, that people feel like we're world class in that sort of genre. So, yeah. It's deliberate in the design.
Yeah, narrative as well, I would say. Even the way that we write the quests are kind of more meandering. Like the hope is that the player can jump into the Bromius quest and then wander off into the Wevet Wood. And, we show it all in a 20-minute demo, but the idea is it's more of this prolonged story that you're going to get distracted by and really be able to take your time with.
Yeah.
So I have to ask maybe a slightly strange question, but from a genre perspective, do you consider Soulframe to be a fantasy game? Because to me, like when I was trying to describe it in my notes, I ended up with the word sci-fantasy ? Because it really kind of felt like you were leaning towards parts from both genres.
Yeah, definitely. Sci-fantasy is cute. That's a good one. Yeah, we definitely, it comes from a fantasy roots from Alka, the planet, is very medieval fantasy. But with the Ode, it's like this invasion, this almost an invasion of sci-fi into a fantasy world. And
Yeah.
the way that the art team kind of shows that in the environments, I think is really, really on point.
Yep. And there's little hints and stuff in the current preludes of those things, and even in the intro. But as we build out the game and as we progress in telling the stories, I think you'll get to understand how potentially deep some of this stuff goes.
Okay. So Sydney, when it comes to designing the kind of the main character narrative for Soulframe, what were the most important like beats that you wanted to hit when you first started designing the kind of initial story?
I think it's about having the player find their way in the world.
Okay.
I think that fantasy of it's not about you, it's not about the player, it's about this giant world that they used to belong to and they've forgotten. And it kind of introduces the player into a story where they're almost remembering. They're almost every mechanic they learn, every piece of lore, every new character they meet. It's like, this is a part of my history. You're learning about the world as much as you're learning about yourself, and trying to kind of reclaim this world that's been taken over by these sci-fi baddies. So definitely that kind of redemption and reclaiming is like a huge theme for the player fantasy.
Yeah.
I love that the player gets to experience that at the same time as the character.
Yeah.
It's the shared memory between the character and the player is fantastic.
One of the things, shifting topics for a moment, one of the things that's always really impressive to me about Soulframe and the Preludes and even Warframe is the menu design. I know that's completely, tonal whiplash from discussing the narrative, but whoever on your team designs the initial menus where it's you just hit play and all of a sudden the menu becomes the game and the character gets up, or like the character just starts interacting with the world. That's such a fantastic design for removing that kind of break of immersion when you are dealing with a menu. It's so unique of a concept. I can't think of any other game off the top of my head that does it. I'm sure there are some. Like whoever does that on your team or whoever came up with the idea, that's just fantastic.
Yeah, the idea is one of the core design pillars for Soulframe is to make it as seamless as possible, right? So we were trying to avoid the loading screens. We're trying to avoid those things, those barriers between play sessions. With the way that our streaming tech has evolved over the years, we're now able to kind of seamlessly go down into the dungeon, traverse the whole dungeon and then stream back out into the overworld and be in a new location. Same with the menus and the way that you interact with like your arsenal and with all your ancestors. It's a seamless fall back into the Nightfold, and then you're instantly in what's like your playership, right? So you're instantly in a space where you have your own personal town, and there's no loading between it, and there's no big loading screens for that stuff. So it's deliberate in the design of what we're shooting for, is to try to keep the player in the world and keep everything sort of feeling like it's cohesive.
When it comes to the Preludes, has there been any feedback from the community that kind of surprised you and you were like, oh my god, that's such a great idea that you didn't think of? Because obviously, you're such a smaller team that when you do open the gates to more minds, you have more information and more ideas.
There's tons. It's absolutely fascinating how the community latches onto the game and builds out what they think is the possibilities in the lore and what they see as, even mechanically in the game, what they would like to see. Pack designs, you see concept art for packs that they'd like to see, and which, it's fun following that along and seeing what, the community comes up with. And we are watching, and we do actively like, oh, that's a really good idea. Thank you. And try to put it in the game. And that's how Warframe was built as well. There's lots of great community ideas from Warframe that got integrated into the game. And Soulframe is going to follow that same path. Part of the reason we believe in getting the game to players early is we want to build a game for the players. As much as it's for us, it's for them as well.
Yeah.
So when we get it into their hands early, they can give us feedback early about what's working, what's not working, what they want to see, what's direction, what's resonating with them, what story parts are they enjoying, what combat parts are they not enjoying, and then we can work on those things sort of like together. I've always said when we hire designers to the team is the greatest thing about working on live service games is that back loop. Is that you could be working on something and then an hour later it's literally in community hands, and you're getting instant feedback, and then you're allowed the opportunity to iterate on it and improve it and fix it. Like you may have made a typo, you may have overbalanced something or underbalanced something, and having that ability to adjust and having a community that's tolerant of that and isn't, is on board for those changes, I think is super important. And it is very satisfying to work.
Sorry, that's just my courtesy 5-minute note, Dave.
Yeah, no worries. Sydney, what's it like when it comes to creating events in the game that have to kind of fit this world that you've built, but still obviously have the direct correlation to a real life event, so people can go, oh, this is like the Halloween event, oh, this is the Easter event. Like, how do you approach taking something and changing it like that?
I think I like to take a lot of inspiration from like ancient mythologies. I think it's the Halloween was a great example to see Halloween, and we went back, and Steve and I did some research on old Celtic, Hallows Eve traditions, and came up with the name Okfomar because it was kind of a joke almost about how the S and the F used to be interchangeable or whatever in ancient English, and it's kind of a fun opportunity because Soulframe does rely so heavily on themes of like the human condition and what sort of things humans celebrate, what have we innately done forever, and one of those is kind of a celebration of the seasons, a celebration of the passing of time, of times when spirits are near or far or whatever it is, and being able to look at those things that we still celebrate today in a more historical and mythological perspective. You can kind of blend them in interesting ways that are recognizable but still different and still fantasy.
Awesome. And as a final question, so that I don't have to worry about Justin yelling at me, what so far is your favorite part you've put into Soulframe? Like either like a little Easter egg thing or just like a faction, an area? Is there one thing that you're like, while designing it, you were just like, yes, this is fantastic?
I have one. My the Drip and Flagon, the little tavern in the Silent Rose Enclave, is something I really pushed for right when I initially started and we were talking about early factions. I was like, it's a medieval fantasy, we need a tavern, and I came up with the name, and as the design built around the Silent Rose as this rebel faction, the pieces all kind of fell together as this old repurposed tavern that is now a secret meeting place for the Rebel Alliance. And I think watching it come into the game with the music and the NPCs that talk to you in there, I'm so happy about the way it came to life.
Scott, what about you?
Oh, there's many little things that we've had conversations about and then have materialized in the game. Mechanically wise, lately is I think is the Wizard battle, the ping pong magic battle that is it feels like it's finally working. And you saw it in the demo. You can reflect the magic back, and he can reflect it back at you. And I thought that it was a concept. The idea of it was early on, and it sort of worked and didn't work and wasn't useful. And I feel like that the Wazard battle, it finally clicked and is feels like a core mechanic to that battle, and it works. And it's very satisfying to see that.
As an English speaker or a Brit, the word wazard made me chuckle when I saw that you had like, what was it, Wazard of the Wastes, is it?
That's right. That was
Yeah.
one of those things where he needed a name, and Steve dropped in something as a joke, and we all went, well, I guess it's Wazard now. Now we have to keep it.
Brilliant. Excellent. Well, thank you so much to both of you. And before we go, I should mention that, you know, people obviously, now TennoCon has passed, they've either jumped in and tried the game, or they just have to wait until next time. But they can sign up and have a chance of getting into play Preludes, correct?
Yeah.
Sign in.
If they sign up now, when over TennoCon, you get in. And if they sign up after, they go in the pool of people that will start drawing from. So the TennoCon is almost becoming like a reset to what that pool is, because that pool is quite large.
Yeah.
So during TennoCon, we're going to let as many of those people into the game, and then the pool will start filling up post TennoCon again to start allowing that lottery system to be a smaller group of people to pull from.
Wow, excellent. Thank you so much to both of you for your time.
Thank you for the interview.
Thank you.